Guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be doing a September TBR, and I'm not going to be using the TBR jar today just because it is transitioning into fall and I have some books in mind. But before we start discussing that, I want to talk about how poorly I did in last month's TBR. I literally only read 2 of those books, which were like 2 out of 5, not the worst, but not as much as I would have wanted to read. So I'm hoping that September, since it is transitional, like I said, it can be more motivating to keep reading. I don't fully want to commit to Halloween vibes yet, but I do want a more fall-leaning spooky Halloween vibes. If you guys would like to see any books that I recommend for Halloween, October months, it is the upcoming month, feel free to let me know and I will film that for you guys. Starting off, as we speak about last month's TBR, I did not read the volume of Death Note that I plan to read, so this month, I actually will 100% be completing this. I don't care how long or when, or if it even happens today, but I need to finish this. This contains volumes 9 and 10. It's the omnibus version, and if you want a little more explanation on what it is, you could watch my last month TBR video because I go and talk about it in detail. The next book I will be attempting to read is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, and I just read her newest book last month, making this the 3rd book I will be reading. I'm pretty sure this is her first one. I read them all out of order. Not that you need to read them in order because they're all standalones, but this book is about Florence, who is a ghostwriter, and she finds herself in a weird situation with that job, but also her father passes away. So she ends up going to the funeral where in her hometown she meets a ghost. And from there, I think it becomes a romance. So very interesting, very fun idea, and I know people have read this and loved it before. They have even loved it more than the one I read last month, which is her newest, so I am very, very excited to finally do this because I picked this up at a book off like months ago and I haven't been able to read it, but it finally seems like the time to do so. Getting into the spooky but not spooky vibes. The next and final book I have physical form is The Husbands by Holly Gramazio, and this, again, is a book that I've been trying to read for so long. It's from Book of the Month, and I just have not gotten around to it. It sounds so interesting. It's about a woman who has this husband that she doesn't remember, and all her friends say, yes, this is your husband, but when he goes up to the attic and changes a light bulb, he comes back a different man. Like, it's completely a different husband, and the story repeats. I've heard it's more of a, you know, message, metaphor vibe thing for other situations. So I'm interested. People either love this or hate it, but it seems right my alley as long as it's not super dragged out, which I hope it's not. But we will see. Very excited. The rest of these I will be reading on my Kindle, so I will be popping up pictures or whatever information you need. 4th book in my TBR is gonna be The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. This is Chloe's book pick of the month from her Patreon. I am a member, which favorite thing in the world, but she will be reading this book this month and I want to read it as well. It is a gothic horror. I think it's just easier if I read you the synopsis for this one because I genuinely have no idea what I'm getting into and I genuinely cannot tell you how it's going to go down. So here we go. Robert Louis Stevenson's masterpiece of the duality of good and evil in man's nature sprang from the darkest recesses of his own unconscious. During a nightmare from which his wife awakened him, alerted by his screams, more than 100 years later, this tale of the mild-mannered Dr. Jekyll and the drug that unleashed his evil inner persona, the loathsome, twisted Mr. Hyde, has lost none of its ability to shock. Its realistic police-style narrative chilling relates Jekyll's desperation as Hyde gains control of his soul and gives voice to our own fears of the violence and evil within us. Written before Freud's naming of the ego and the ID, Stevenson's enduring classic demonstrates a remarkable understanding of the personality's inner conflicts and remains the irresistibly terrifying stuff of our worst nightmares. Sounds not at all along my alley, but I am excited to branch out and just hopefully power through it and not be a nervous wreck. I really want to be able to give my opinions on the Discord and watch Chloe's reactions at the end of the month, so I will be participating. I don't care how I feel. The next pick is actually also from Chloe's recommendation. I have read Bunny by Mona Awad, and the book that I will be reading this month is Rouge by Mona Awad. And it is, if you know any of Mona Awad's writings, she is very, very, very creative. And the way she writes is like no other. It's so unique. You either love it or hate it. I personally loved Bunny, and if you want to discuss it, that's something else you could reach out to me for. But essentially Rouge takes this wacky writing style and talks about the ways humans kind of see mortality and the beauty industry and like the surface level beauty, how we grapple with it through mortality ideas and all these things. Basically takes this main character who's obsessed with beauty and spa and skincare and makeup and all these things and takes her to the journey of her mom passing away. And I'm sure it gets silly, wacky, and fun in the weirdest ways. So that's why I'm interested. I also noticed that a lot of people rated it 4 to 5 stars on the Patreon, so it's something I'm definitely itching to read. It's said to be a contemporary horror gothic fantasy book, and that is what all Mona Awad's books I've seen so far tend to be. And again, trigger warning, grief. It seems that I'm reading a lot of books about people dying or just disappearing. There is the Dead Romantics, obviously, with the death of the father. There is this one with the death of a mother. There is Death Note, which people are constantly dying. And there is The Husbands, which she keeps getting rid of men. What is this month about? Last year, I also read The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. So this year, I want to make sure I read the second book in the series. I'm pretty sure there's 3 now. But the second one is called The Kiss Curse, and it is a romance fantasy about witches. I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil the first book. If you haven't even read the first book, I definitely recommend. It's super cozy witches, Halloween, curses. We'll talk about both of these books having Gilmore Girl town vibes, so of course I'm a fan of that. And if you like that, I'm sure you'll be a fan of them too. But this book is just more of a bonus because I don't want to put too much on my plate, coming from the month that was really bad. So those are the books I will be attempting to read. Again, no promises, but I really, really, really hope I do. And if you're going to read any fun book for either September or October, please let me know in the comments. I'm constantly searching for more books that give me the fall feel, the holiday feel. And I don't really love horror or just adult scary books, you know, very freaky. I'm very easily freaked out, so you know, I'm trying my best. To recap them, I'm reading Death Note, Volume 9 and 10, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm reading Rouge, The Husbands, The Dead Romantics, and The Ex-Hex sequel. I hope you got some inspiration for your TBR for either this month, next month, or even the next month. But that is all for today's video. See you guys in the next one. God, it's so hot. How am I gonna film this?